No, we're not talking about the 1970s series, but the live-action adaptation that continues the DCU movie series. After some lukewarm reviews for Batman vs. Superman, Wonder Woman was sort of like the saving grace of the series. Not only that, but it was a big deal because it was another powerful lead female character coming into cinema, as well as being directed by a female director, Patty Jenkins. And the general consensus was that this was an excellent superhero film. It had great action, it had a great female lead, and my opinion of the film, it was good. Okay, look, let me explain. So the plot follows our main character Diana, who will one day grow up to be Wonder Woman. She's the princess of the Amazons, based off Greek mythology. And their one purpose is to one day save humanity from Ares, the god of war, who may or may not be dead, but that makes their goal relatively tricky though when they have an invisible barrier separating them from the rest of the world, gifted to them by Zeus. But then one day a plane crashes through that barrier, piloted by Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, who's being pursued by German soldiers because this is World War I, which makes the genre really interesting because now it's a superhero historical fiction piece. So Diana decides to leave with Steve Trevor into the world of Ben to find Ares and put an end to him so she can stop the war and save the world. So honestly, one of the strengths of this movie is the fact that it does take place during World War I. I was actually really surprised to see how deep they get with this. They show the gritty, ugly side of war, how a lot of innocents are killed or wiped out. Even a lot of the minor characters have surprisingly strong personalities and backgrounds within this war. We have one character who has night terrors from all the people he's killed or have seen die, which I thought was surprisingly deep for a movie like this. It's not too often that you see a superhero who comes from a place of ignorance and actually has to learn about the world around her and her place within it, which leads to some awesome action scenes. I mean, really, the pinnacle of the whole film is her stepping out into the battlefield with German machine guns blasting at her shield. Oh my god, this scene is so epic, especially with that theme song. In fact, a lot of action scenes are pretty kick-ass in this movie, especially with those Amazon warriors. Which does lead me to one of my nitpicks of the movie, which is a lot of slow-mo action shots. I mean, some of them are amazing, like this one sweeping camera shot of, well, a leg sweep. It's incredibly epic. But every action scene seems to be a dime a dozen, throwing in a lot of these slow-mo action scenes to the point where you think to yourself, what is this, the early 2000s? Yeah, we all seen The Matrix. Move on. And on top of that, when continuing the plot, Diana early on leads to a suspicion about a character, which I understand why she's thinking that way, but there's no evidence showing that her suspicion is accurate or even true, so it's weird that she's so committed to that suspicion. Like, I know she's supposed to be naive, but it just seemed like a really dumb approach for a character this smart and powerful. But other than that, we do have the inevitable fish out of water story, as well as, well, it's the early 1900s, so we're gonna have a little bit of sexism in there as well. But fortunately, the movie only really touches upon these points and just, moves right along, which is incredibly refreshing. Because it's a pretty tired trope that's been done to death at this point. And besides, it's Wonder Woman. She's a superhero. She ain't got time for that. She ain't got time for sexism. She ain't got time for this fish out of water nonsense. She's got a world to save and she's got to end World War I. But speaking of these action scenes though, most of them are pretty fantastic until the end of the movie, which one of the producers was Zack Snyder, a big name for directing superhero movies like Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. So he's only a producer this time, but you can sense his fingerprints all over it towards the end of the movie. Like these great wireframe stunts and even the slow-mo that's great sometimes is just sort of dumbed down to a lot of CGI and like cars and other crap being thrown all over the place. And unfortunately, it feels a little anticlimactic how the action is represented at the end of the film. For those who don't care about CGI, realistic or not, you'll still probably enjoy the ending just fine. The final battle at the end is still pretty incredible, but at the same time I'm thinking, God, it's just not as impressive as the previous fight scenes. This also leads to a reveal in the end of the movie that just doesn't feel right. I mean, it's not anticlimactic, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel like it's really earned. I don't know if it's the casting or if it's just, feels like a surprise that, well, I didn't see coming, just didn't really seem to make sense. But yeah, the reveal is a little meh. Funny enough, the first and the last scene take place in present day, obviously to connect us to the DCU movie series, which is cool, but considering how those films didn't do quite as well and Wonder Woman did, well, a lot better, I feel like they were totally unnecessary. Especially since the last shot, it almost feels like they didn't know how to end the movie, so they just have this one epic shot of her jumping over the city, and I'm thinking, Yeah, that's how they ended Catwoman and Daredevil, and those are great examples of how to end a superhero movie, right? Another point I feel the need to make was that this movie was especially popular because we had a strong female character. And there are some people out there who are treating this like, wow, this is a godsend, finally, representation of strong women. And I'm thinking, really? Okay, well, to be fair, look, there's a lot of examples of strong women in cinema, especially in action films, but at the same time, they are far and few in between. So I get the hype. I understand that this is awesome to see representation of a strong female role just kicking ass on the big screen. And funny enough, I did feel like Diana did not have to lean on the whole girl power message, which I mean is a positive message, don't get me wrong, but at the same time I feel like that message usually holds back a female character from being her best self or being actually interesting, instead of just being a walking statement. And I feel like Wonder Woman avoids that really well. So overall, we have some great action scenes. We do have a great lead female character. There's some disappointing reveals, and the ending is sort of lackluster. But the whole usage of historical fiction into the genre actually was done surprisingly effectively. So this film was actually pretty damn good. Yeah, there's some major flaws, but I mean, honestly, I just cannot wait to see where Wonder Woman takes us next. So I give Wonder Woman my score of 3.5 stars. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have you all seen Wonder Woman? If not, what else have you been watching lately? Comment below, let me know, and of course, stay tuned if you all want to see more.